Hi everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit, where we explore how pop culture affects our spiritual experiences. My name is Peter Breeze. Join me while we ask a very important question. What the hell did pop culture do to me? Hi everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit. Thanks so much for joining me again today. I'm so happy to have you here. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast. It really helps podcasters grow their audience, and it helps me keep track of what you like and what you don't like and when people are listening. Actually, subscribing doesn't do that, but it does tell me that you like the podcast. And as my numbers grow, it gives me just more information, which is amazing. There's also, I don't think there's a way to leave comments on Spotify, but on Apple, you can definitely leave comments and ratings. So if you want to do that, that would be very helpful as well. Again, yeah, thanks for joining me today. Anyway, let's get right to it. Today, we are talking to drag queen, somebody that I've known for a long time. As you know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, a lot of my spirituality stemmed from fame obsession, nightlife, celebrities, and things like that. And I often reference my time in nightlife as a prime example of the way a seemingly superficial environment and lifestyle can actually open you up to a more profound way of living. And my time in nightlife offered so many amazing spiritual lessons. And I didn't know it at the time when I went into nightlife. Obviously, I wasn't looking to become self-actualized or spiritually aware. I just wanted to be famous. But because I was so shameless about my desires and because I was so open with other people about what I wanted and who I was, I created a kind of a dialogue with the world around me that validated me and also showed me that I was a part of something bigger than myself, that if I wanted something, then it could happen. And I say that with a grain of salt because I know I've also had a lot of conversations on the show that are critical of the law of attraction and manifesting. And I think that it's good to be critical of those things and the commercialization of them. However, I have also experienced what can happen if you imagine yourself as something and you go out into the world and you are shamelessly that, chances are the world will respond and treat you as that thing. So when I was in nightlife and I was pretending to be famous, eventually people started treating me like that, and eventually opportunities came my way. And I created that experience for myself. Was it fake or was it delusion? Yes, absolutely it was. I mean, the people who knew me were on a very small scale. We're talking like, one street in Vancouver. I was the most popular girl on the street for like 5 years, and maybe some other bars across Canada. But it validated me enough to know that if I believed in myself, maybe the belief itself wouldn't take me all the way to superstardom, but the confidence that I was able to fake and then eventually have authentically did provide me the opportunity to explore my passions in an amazing way. So I would encourage anybody who is a dreamer, who is creative, who has a lot of big ideas for their life, to definitely tap into those and let them be a guiding force and do it in a way that's healthy and keeps you grounded. I did a lot of very impulsive things, quitting jobs, that was, moving, things like that, that really didn't lend itself to building a sustainable creative life. And I know now that the more stability I have, if I can pay my bills, if I'm healthy, if I'm feeling good in my relationships and my mental health is okay, then that allows me to be creative and do outlets like this podcast. So yeah, it's something that you have to constantly check in with yourself. That's what I find. And when it comes to like creating any reality, I do think nightlife, and I guess now social media is a great place to explore that fantasy, honey. If you want to be something, go do it online, create that following, and be that person. Let yourself have fun with it and explore it. But remember, it probably isn't real. You know, just like when the party ended, so did my reputation. It's the same thing with social media. I mean, 100 followers is great, but at the end of the day, what does it really mean? What does it really mean? I don't know the answer to that. Anyway, our next guest, our first guest today, our guest today is Raye Sunshine. Raye Sunshine and I go way back, honey, way back. I don't know, 20 years, maybe not 20 years, 15 years for sure, to my days clubbing in Vancouver. And I'm really excited to talk to her. And we've had some questions offline about spirituality and sobriety and things like that. And I'm really excited to sort of take a trip down memory lane with her and see where she's at and what insight she can offer us and what it's like to be spiritual. Please welcome Raye Sunshine. Hi.
Hi, there we are. I'm like,
How are
where's my
you?
sound? Oh, I'm really good. Yeah, I just got out of the shower and put pants on, and I'm like, okay, now I can talk to
Oh,
someone
honey,
now.
we should have done it naked.
Oh, I mean, we could have, but I mean, then I'm exposed to my neighbors, and they already don't like
You're
us
like,
as it is.
hi.
Hi, here's my fat cock. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Oh my God. Oh, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That reminds me of Drag Race. I just watched the last episode. You know that? What's her name? It's a really unique name. She's super tall and skinny. And her verse was, I have no bones in my body, gonna wiggle my way to the top. And
That's good.
yeah, and she was moving kind of like a fucking Band-Aid or an elastic band. It was good. I liked it.
I like that. I'm here for it. I
Yeah.
actually have not seen any of the new seasons of Drag Race yet. I'm
None
I'm
at all.
None. The last one I watched was the UK when the Vivian won. I liked that. I like the UK version. I have not seen Canada's Drag Race.
Really?
Surprising.
Okay. Is this a choice or were you just too busy?
It's a choice between being too busy because I was running Resident Alien then, so I was quite busy.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just never happened. I never got around to it. And then I followed a few of the queens, and I saw enough of their social media posts to kind of get the gist of what went down. But yeah, other than that, I'm associated with one of the makeup artists that was on the show. So
cool.
It's just yeah. I mean, but it's because of our union, right? So that's the only way we know of each other. But
so what did you like when you heard of, by the way, I'm recording now, so I'll edit afterward, but we'll just talk. We'll just flow.
Yeah,
there's no like start to set. When Canada's Drag Race was announced, how did you feel about it?
I was really excited.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was 2018, I think. And I was still working at Studio Effects at the time. I was still in the transition of leaving my education of my director of education spot and working into film full time. So it was quite a transitional period for me in my life, going from like something that's so regular and like a regular job to something that can be a year or two of work or like 8 months and then nothing for months, right? So I mean, it was really exciting. So I gave it a try. I filmed my audition tape with my manager at the time, and I kind of had a funny feeling that like after I did the tape and I sent it in, I'm like, okay, they might not call because it wasn't really what I learned from that video is it really like it wasn't me, it was somebody else's package of me. So I'm like,
oh, interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't really feel like this is Raye Sunshine. I feel like this is just Raye Sunshine being the makeup artist and talking on camera. Like it's not really who I am as an artist and as a
interesting.
Yeah. So I got a phone call. So I did the phone call interview, and it went really well. We talked for about 45 minutes when it was only supposed to be half an hour.
Oh my God! Inside scoop.
All right. Yeah. No. So it's like it was a really good conversation. But then after I got off the phone, I'm like, that really wasn't me again. Like it was what people would expect from me, or like somebody else's expectations, and like, what's the word I want to use here?
Authentic.
Yeah, just like it wasn't authentic. It wasn't really me. So like instantly, right then and there, I knew I'm like, I'm probably not going to get this because I wasn't my true happy self. I wasn't kind, loving Raye.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was in a similar situation, like back in the day. There was a few opportunities that came in regards to reality TV. And the biggest one was when I was throwing raves, like the DUI parties at like
Yep.
underground locations. There was VA. I don't know if you remember this. It was what did they call it? The Real Hipsters of Vancouver. That started
Yes.
as a joke, okay?
Yeah, it
And
did.
then
Yep.
Perez Hilton picked it up, and then real producers came on board and were like, this is actually a great idea. And so they
Yeah.
came, and I went through the whole interview process too. And I found it so hard for somebody who wanted to be famous so fucking bad. I really found it hard to let go of, like, I couldn't get out of my own head whenever I was doing an on-camera thing. I was like, what am I supposed to be to make them like me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Same
it was,
thing.
I felt at any time after those experiences, I left feeling like, fuck, I don't feel like that went well because I wasn't myself. And when I'm in the club, it's like, oh my God, that would have been perfect for TV. But then you put it in these controlled environment. It's like, how do you capture that vibe in those parameters? So yeah, it's challenging.
Well, especially with like, I find, like just to touch on the topic of like digital drag, like I don't feel like that's my platform for drag, because there's no audience, there's no reaction. And like, I feel like people like you and me who are quite empathic, and we feed off energies in a room. So if that energy is rising, we rise too. We begin to let our guards down and our walls down, and we begin to unleash this true person that we really are inside, because the vibe is there, the environment's nourishing. So we're gonna blow up into this star quality beast that everyone expects from us.
Totally.
But can we unlock that on a stage floor in front of a bunch of crewmen?
Exactly.
About a bunch of hetero crewmen. And it's not being, like, oh, we should hire queer people, which we should, but to create a more, it's all about your environment, right? So like, you don't really know what's going to happen when you walk into a reality TV show. You don't know how you're going to be portrayed. And so it's kind of a terrifying thought, just to kind of like loosely touch on what we were talking about there.
I think I went to a audition once for a club kid when I was in the thick of my club kid days. And they were like, the casting director knew of me, and she brought me in like a few times, and she was like, you should be perfect for, the note was basically, you should be perfect for this because you are this person. But it was just not right. Like, it wasn't coming, I was pushing it too much. And so I can't even imagine the pressure of drag queens going onto these shows and being aware of what it can do for their career while trying to come across as authentic and do your best within like this weird environment where there's, like you said, camera and crew, and it's not the club. And you and I, you're right, we grew up off of the energy of nightlife that fueled us, but a lot of artists now don't, like, they don't
have that. I mean, even like the current generation of drag and the one, previous to it, when like the rise of Brat Pack and you, when everyone was just beginning to rise up, that was like the heydays of the bar scenes. Like they were explosive. There was so much drag. There was drag 7 days a week throughout the city, because it was creative. It was giving them something that they didn't get the last generation, which was like our generation, because we lost our bars, we lost all of our home sets. So when you lose a queer space, different generations of drag are always affected. And I feel like it really affected like a few of our old schoolers who were just like, this is our place, and now it's gone. We don't fit into the new realm of drag, because drag has evolved constantly. Drag is still evolving, even with mainstream media now, and everyone. It's kind of like everyone wants to be a DJ. Do you remember those old days? Everyone was a DJ.
Oh yeah.
So now everyone's a drag queen, or they're either a drag queen or a makeup artist or a fashionista. And I think it's great to express yourself and to really put that out there. But a lot of
it's kind of fast tracked everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I remember like speaking of queer spaces, like the Odyssey where you and I met, that was such an institution. And if it wasn't for that bar, specifically the Odyssey, is where I was really able to experience the fantasy of being a superstar. And, when I look back to that time, there are a few drag queens that stand out. You're one of them, Joni, Carlotta, but it wasn't like you went out every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and there was a new drag queen who had their own show next week. Yeah. There was like a ladder you had to climb, and it took time, It
took time. And no, and I mean, like the Odyssey was such a special place because it really did nourish a lot of especially artistic people that are now, from our, I guess I'm gonna say it, our young adulthood, we're all experiencing kind of similar ways of like, okay, well now it's time to evolve, or it's time to re-look at how you view drag and really open up those expressions and those mindsets. And sadly, some people just can't go into a drag world that isn't padded or jewels or big hair. But it doesn't mean that someone else's drag isn't valid. It's still drag. It's still creative. It's just an older generation that lost everything is now seeing, a new generation pop up that is getting a lot of everything, or like at least more open doors. And the world's evolved. The world's gotten better.
Totally.
The world is more aware. And back in the old day, it wasn't.
It took more time, and now you and I are able to see a newer generation come up, because we're not the youngest generation, and so we can say, oh, when we first started, this is how it was. And we can see a difference where now you can never step foot in a club. You can be 16 and become a huge Instagram celebrity through drag and get on Drag Race when it's time, and have a huge career, and never really have those years in nightlife hustling the clubs, which I can't imagine being able to perform if my entire platform was digital and I never had access to those people in real life. And then suddenly you're on a TV show, you go on tour, and it's the first time you're really playing with that energy. Can you imagine?
I couldn't. I mean, that's one of the other reasons why Drag Race Canada scares me so much, is because you are put onto a much bigger world. Everything is suddenly magnified about yourself. Everything is under a microscope, and people will look for old dirt. And I know that there is some old dirt on me from some old days of just not the best judgments in my life. It was nothing was ever done cruel or mean, and thank God I never embraced like blackface or something like that, because that's just wrong. You don't do any of those things. But in the early 2000s, people were still making lightheaded jokes at Latinas and the whole Chola phase with everything. And I mean, like, during that time, I will admit that a lot of that makeup is inspired for me. So I did end up portraying a lot of Latina makeup. So it's always one of those things I'm like, yep, I'm going to acknowledge that now, because it was a poor choice of judgment. But I've thankfully grown past that. Like you realize these things are wrong and you don't do them anymore.
You are, but we're lucky. I was just talking to somebody this morning about how if I would have had Snapchat and Instagram stories when I was in the club, I would be ruined, because the things that I said and did when I was fucked up were always to get attention. And of course, now you see Instagram, influencers who go to these crazy lengths to generate that kind of buzz. And I know that I would have been one of those people, but because I'm not, there may be something online that I'm not aware of, but now you have to be so careful. You and I are lucky. We can look back and be like, yes, I can identify some problematic behavior. And I've learned from that, thankfully, and I move on. And there may be some photo evidence or not, I don't know. But, now the pressure these days is completely different, and rightfully so. I mean, we should be raising the bar always. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, like, that's why it's like, when you and I have the ability to, now that we're sober, we can reflect on these choices that was fueled by drug and alcohol and poor life choices, because we were living in that environment. I mean, I did things that were just like, I want attention and people seem to like me, so I'm just going to keep doing these things. And thankfully, a lot of it was based in fantasy and creation drag, where a lot of it didn't really make sense, but the visual was there. So everyone was kind of sketched out and drunk would enjoy the visual. And suddenly my show was a hit. And I'm like, and I look back and I rewatch the video and I go, oh God, oh God, I'm so high here, or I'm so drunk here. Like, I completely, like, I've learned that I have no moderation whatsoever. Like, I struggle with moderation. That's just a thing that I'm trying to work with, right? But it's hard to stop yourself in those situations when people are cheering for you and you're like, okay, well, I'll flash up my titties and I'll flash up my ass. Oh my God. And suddenly I'm raising money for charity.
Yes, I 100% agree. And that was always the internal battle for me, was I felt like I was going too far, but I was being celebrated and paid
And
and
paid.
paid, like, let me
Yeah.
say paid,
Yeah.
not necessarily paid to do drugs and get drunk, but I was being celebrated for that type of energy. That's what people
Yeah.
wanted from me. And
That's
so
what
I
we
did
wanted.
it. And it's
Yeah.
that inner conflict of like, wait, this doesn't feel right, but I'm also becoming a star. And how do you, I wasn't like you. I didn't
Yeah.
have the self-regulation and the maturity to say no and regulate. I mean, I just didn't.
Well, I only learned that 5 years ago. So I mean, like, I've been doing drag for almost 20 years. If I really think about it, I mean, like, the very first time I put on a dress, like, my first photo shoot was at 8. So I mean, like, I've always been doing drag. Drag has always been a part of my life. But I had such hard time breaking the delusion wall that would come with the rise of power, and you getting these bigger gigs suddenly, and suddenly now you're flying to South Korea, and you're doing a show because people like what you're doing, and it's infectious, but it also creates a level of delusion that
Yes.
is not grounded on earth.
Oh
So,
my
like,
God, yes.
yeah, and it's really something, but you kind of have to go through that. And I feel like with the newer wave of drag, especially now with it being digital, a lot of people aren't going to have that opportunity for the next foreseeable future until we have COVID under control. They might not get the grounding level that they need throughout their gigs, so they could end up destroying themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not financially or anything like that. Well, it is financially, but it's also like you could destroy yourself mentally by losing yourself in a game that's really addictive. It's very addictive. So I mean, if you don't know how to moderate yourself or remind yourself that all eyes are on you constantly, there's a chance that you just might destroy yourself. And
Yeah.
then what? What do you do
Yeah. And
then?
then what? I mean, one of the hardest things that I've had to do in my life up until now was unravel that identity that was so wrapped up in excess and be like, wait,
Mhm.
when I started even to inch away from the club scene, I felt people lose interest in me. And it was so destabilizing to be like, "Oh, wait, I'm trying to go in a new direction and be more healthy. And there's absolutely no interest in that. I'm not the same commodity that I once was."
Yeah.
And to wake up day after day and realize, okay, I'm not going to be a superstar. This wasn't really real. It was a moment in time is very, very hard because it feels so real in the moment. And it's taken years,
Yep.
sobriety, therapy, getting into a
Yep.
relationship, moving to different cities to really start to feel better about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Well, it's that self-worth too. I mean, you and I have exactly gone on the same path. You're on this rise of amazing power, but then the minute, like, when I left drag, last time I did drag was maybe was I did a makeup video with another drag queen, and I haven't done drag since. I After I had finished that video, something inside of me just kind of broke. It just
wow.
kind of made me go, and it was a really good video. It was great, and it's long, but we had a captive audience the whole time. But after I had left, I'm like, who am I? Like, why am I doing this still in this day and age? This is when digital drag was just beginning to kick off, and I'm like, there's no financial reward. There's no creative outlet, or not outlet. Sorry, there's no creative release for me because no one can physically see all the details that are in my piece. So it's like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore, and I lost myself completely. And I mean, I've always struggled with mental health issues through my whole drag career. There's the rise and fall of a lot of things, but
Mhm.
getting to that point where I was just like, I don't know who I am as a drag queen, and I'm just now, like, still going through it, still processing who I am as a drag queen. That's why I just kind of have left the digital drag world. And I mean, recently I've been posting old creation photos to maybe re-spark what I want, and they're so well received, and they're so like they're always loved, which I appreciate. Everyone, thank you. But it's more so about myself versus my community. So, like, how you had mentioned, when you do leave, you feel a sense of loss, and it's kind of weird. It's not grieving your old past, but it's also grieving that spotlight that
Oh, fuck. Yes.
that everything that came, that wasn't just about doing your show, but everything else that you got with it.
Mm.
But also like the sense of security, and like to feel like you're making it without a TV show. You know, you're
Yeah.
doing everything without a new world, and it's just kind of like, well, that's all gone now, because that world just doesn't exist anymore. Like
That's
it's gone.
it. That's
So
it. It's the nostalgia. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, like nostalgia is very popular right nowadays, as we're flashing back to like Sailor Moon and everything. But there's a sense of loss, and there's a bit of a grief that comes with it once you stop and just like start reflecting on yourself. And once you get past that grief, you really start seeing drag in a new light, and it's
Mm.
almost exciting again for me. Like, I mean, like I've started following more drag queens. I've started watching more makeup videos that from put on by other artists. I'm searching for people that are not in a shoebox. You know, does that make
Yeah.
sense? When
Yeah.
like people that are just, there's always mainstream drag, but then there's always the artists, like
Yeah.
people that I think a few of the queens that I really look up to is like Sasha Velour.
Oh,
They're
fuck. I love Sasha. Yeah.
visual concept artist. And I mean, that's, if I was to put myself in a category with a Rue girl, as they say, that's where I would sit. I would be a darker version of Sasha Velour.
Yeah. I could see that
But
for sure.
but yeah, but my drag would portray more through like the mental struggles of being a drag queen portrayed through art, and and yeah.
This is a
Before I get
this
off
is a really great
topic.
topic. Well, no, it's good because a lot of people don't get to know the other side of what it means to dedicate your life to drag and the aftermath. I talked to Jane Smoker about this, about
Hmm.
how you are the moment, you're the star for so
Yeah,
long, and then it stops and you move on, and it's like, what happens next?
yeah,
And the identity crisis, like, who am I without these things? And it's really hard to turn to quote unquote normal people who aren't a part of the scene to be like, I
correct.
feel like I used to be a star and now I'm not. And they're like, girl, you were not a star. And you're like, no, but I
Yeah,
was, I
but I
was,
was mentally, I
I
was,
was.
I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So how did you reconcile that? Like when you started to move away from drag and, getting sober and you started to change your life, how do you fill yourself up again and, keep yourself plugged in and feel okay
yeah.
without
Well, it's
that?
it's hard. I mean, I'm still struggling with it. There's. I mean, that's one of the things that are holding me back from doing drag now. Is because I don't know where I fit in. I don't know where I kind of like belong. Like I know I fit in places, but truly and honestly, like I've never really fit in with most of our drag scene. I've always been the person that would pop in for an event or something,
Yep.
or showcase a piece, and then usually I kind of disappear.
Hmm.
That's my own faults and my own social anxieties, because I don't really know what to say to people. I mean, I have two great
Wow.
passions in my world, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to talk about Sailor Moon and my sobriety. So it's
Well, you
like,
know what? I actually had somebody on my show who was talking about Sailor Moon being how they opened up to spirituality because it's light and it's love and she
yeah,
transforms and it's
yeah,
astrology, it's all those things. So I
it's
mean,
everything. Yeah,
yeah, pop culture is how a lot of queer people first find themselves because
yeah.
we don't necessarily have it in our world. So Sailor Moon is a great
Oh no,
example of
yeah,
a bridge to how you can self-actualize.
yeah. And I mean, like also, but also like just knowing who you are as a person. I mean, I am someone that was filled with a lot of self doubt and a lot of, I had no self worth. I've always struggled with that. But I've discovered with drag, it's not, people don't see that part of you. They're not looking at the, oh, why does she always leave? They don't look at that. They look at what you present and how you hold yourself in a room and how you treat other people, which is a big key. I can't express that to people enough. Like, just be kind. Um, but not everyone gets that, So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's and then to loop back to your question, I still don't know how I plan to reintegrate to the drag world or anything, but a way to stay creative is creating projects for yourself. So I've started, by watching more drag queens and getting inspiration from people that are still kind of like doing the hustle every day, and really like acknowledging that hustle, being like, I know what you're going through. That's fucking hard work. And the fact that you're doing this weekly or nightly or morning, like I cannot commend you enough, because that it's a drive. And it's not that I've lost that drive. I'm just taking my drive into a different direction. And this is what I've been struggling, kind of going over actually the last 3 days with my partner on how I want to do that. And I've kind of landed with to stay creative with drag and to stay passionate about it is kind of creating what I want to create now. No longer what's gonna fly at this show or what's gonna respond. So like I recreate a lot of characters. So like I've done Ursula, I've done Two-Face. I mean, the list goes on what I've created, but they've always been based off of something. But every now and then throughout my long history of drag, there's key points, which were always these notable performances that came straight from my head. They didn't come from something else. They came from the delusion, the crazy mind world that I live in. That is a blur of like hypnotic colors, you know, it's
right.
But those performances were the ones that always fed me the most internally. Like there was a Just Drag performance where I did this creature from the mirror, and it was a painted on face of my human face, but the rest of me was rotted and disgusting and filled with like spikes of bile.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But everyone saw it. They're like, oh, what is she doing? What is this? But no one really, some people got the real message that was behind it is the struggle and who you are as a person. So you wear this fake mask to portray yourself as this beautiful creature, but deep down inside, I hate myself so much that I've rotted away, you know. So it's finding pieces like that and being like, that's what I want to do, and be true to yourself. You know, I don't want to be a marketable package. So I don't want to be a queen that's constantly on social media. That's just not for me. I mean, I've changed my Instagram handle to be like, I'm not the content queen you're looking for. If you want to watch me talk about my day and stuff like that, I'm not the one.
Yeah, not me.
I don't have the energy to put that into, you know, I choose where I give my energies now, and my energy is going into my artwork. So like going forward, I plan to release one big major art piece a year for now, just to start. But it's literally like a full portrait drag of one big huge message where everything's created by me, everything's made by me and painted by me. So like I get to express all the delusion in the world into this small little frame, and that will take me a year, and then I'll do another year.
I mean, this is amazing. It's so cool. Like you basically go from being driven by attention to being driven by your creativity and staying true to who you are. And I can resonate with that. Like before it was being on stage and being in front of people, but now I write. And when I write, I mean, nobody's ever going to read what I write unless I get published, but it is a different kind of satisfaction because I'm letting that creativity out, but I require no validation from it necessarily. And I think this is a important message that people who are maybe just starting out their drag career or are maybe thinking about leaving need to hear is that there is a way to be a successful drag queen and honor that creativity without being stuck in the cycle of Instagram or Drag Race.
Yeah. Like I've always said to myself that I've never needed a TV show to be successful, and I am one of the very lucky few drag queens in Canada that can say that you know, when you're known nationally, but it's not for this crazy performance here. It's these looks and these concepts that you do. That's rewarding to me, because it's like, okay, well, people are seeing my work and they're liking my work. It's well received. So that's good for me, you know, because that's so fulfilling enough. It's here, I made this. I know it's not, you know, this dripping in jewels mega drag queen who is beautifully beyond all stunning. I might be there one day, but I might not. But it's
I think the other interesting thing you said is the hating yourself, and that sort of being the reason why we push ourselves to be stars, because in retrospect, I can say I had a lot of shame, which is why I needed so much validation. And we need to remember this of the performers that we're watching and that we're celebrating, that there is another side to that ambition. And it's usually stemmed from insecurity and needing to be seen. And there's nothing wrong with channeling insecurity into a creative outlet, into a career.
No, it's healthy.
But it's something that people need to hear and talk about more often. You know, the biggest stars on the planet fucking struggle. Like, look at Lady Gaga has been really open. She became the star she wanted to, and she immediately was like, I fucking, no, I hate it. I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate being famous. And like, fuck, can you imagine getting to that pinnacle and then waking up and being like,
yeah,
this isn't what I thought.
Yeah, this isn't what my young 22-year-old heart thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like, that's what I mean by the loss as well. It's like all these things that you used to hold shatter down, and you're like, oh. And it really gives you perspective. I mean, like, I can only imagine how queens like Detox in Alaska, how, you know, sadly a lot of people don't view them as people. It's these social figures, these things that are held to a higher standard. Like, I'm just using an example, people that traveled to PV this year,
Yeah.
you know, and then to perform as well. It's like, I understand that you need to make money, I get that, but look at the morality that you're portraying here. This is deeper than just a paycheck. This is like,
and how much were you actually making? Like,
yeah,
seriously.
were you that struggling, or were you just wanting an excuse to get out and you're being paid for it so you can unwind and suck some dick?
Yeah.
Like, you have to,
let's face the fact.
let's be real. I mean, you don't go to PD for the fucking sunshine, you go down for the fat cock.
Yeah.
I've never been there, but I mean,
neither have I, bitch.
I'm gonna call it out as I see it, and
yeah,
I'm okay. I'm good. Those vibes don't do it for me.
I agree.
But it speaks more, like, there's deeper things that are being said, especially by online presence, that have a deeper meaning that really people just don't want to acknowledge that they're humans. So then they're not struggling. They're okay. They were on a TV show 3 years ago.
Yeah, so they should be fine, or they have money, so they're okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you and I both know, money management was not a thing that most performers know how to juggle. I mean, like, if I knew how to juggle it, I wouldn't be walking around in Louboutin and Versace, like, authentic stuff, and being like, my drag's on a different level. I'm like, no, you're an idiot, Steven, because you spent $800 on a necklace.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense, and it's stupid.
So let's go to sobriety a little bit, because when I look back, I mean, fuck, it's all kind of a blur, to be honest. Like, there's a lot. You and I were around for many, many years together, and I mean, there's just a lot of chaos.
We drank a lot together.
Yeah, we drank a lot together, and I remember you were. Yeah, we did a lot of cocaine, Henny. I fucking loved coke. I mean, we all did. I mean, this is the problem why it takes so long to stop that behavior, is because it was so normal. Everybody was doing it. Yeah,
everyone was doing it. It was all over the back. You know, it was constantly around you. So when you're young and impressionable, and you don't really see, like, the health risk later on, but also the mental deterioration that comes with using excessive amounts of drugs repetitively over and over and over, but also how it affects your daily life. Because, you know, yes, we're performers, but we wake up in the morning in wherever we are. I mean, I've lost homes because of my alcoholism.
Yeah.
Like, I was privileged enough to have a very strong running drag show in Vancouver for 5 years straight. You know, it was every Tuesday night. We went twice, and we were popular. It was busy. But that almost destroyed me, because we were doing drugs every night. You know, and then you say you do one show, but for me it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was drag. Every night was drag. So I'm doing drugs 6 days a week and drinking to keep up with everybody else, because I wanted to feel included. So while I was included, and I was, you know, I've developed these beautiful friendships with these people, I sacrificed myself, and I destroyed a lot of my inner light that I had at that time with drugs, because I'm like, well, I want to fit in. I want to be popular, because I've never had an easy time making friends, because I'm a unique human. So I just kind of went along with the ride. You know, I started doing drugs with a coworker at the Odyssey when I was a busboy, and because it was so casual and no one cared about it, oh, okay, I'll do it every now and then. And then your lack of moderation kicks in, or you're still working at this party. It's only midnight and you're fucked up. Oh, I'll do a bump to kind of like bring myself back, not realizing that when you come back onto the dance floor, you're like,
oh my God, exactly.
You're grinding it out, and you're like, hey, girl, and your breath smells like battery acid, but you're too high to give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
So then you continue to drink, and then suddenly it's 4 a.m. You've done close to an 8 ball of coke, and you're like, Where's the after party? Because you
Oh yeah,
can't
because you can't go to
stop.
sleep.
No, you can't go to sleep. So
Yeah.
you might as well see who else is jiving and chucking and jiving. But
How
it's
long would you say you felt like there was an issue for before you stopped?
oof. So I would have started using casually at 21. Um, and I should have learned my lesson the first time I had to move back home. It was either my parents gave me an ultimatum. It was either move back home or go to rehab. So
Wow.
yeah, or
I
don't
didn't
come
know
home at
that.
all ever. Oh yeah. See, the funny thing is I don't talk a lot about myself because at the time I'm like, oh, my life has no value. No one wants to know about that. And when I was getting sober, talking to people, no one wanted to talk about it. Nobody, no, it's fine, right? We get it. You're quitting drinking again, sure. Because I had failed so many
Right.
times previous leading up to it. So at 24, I was sober. I was clean off Coke for about 3 years. I stopped Coke, but I was still drinking. I was still drinking heavily because I needed something to open my walls down and let my guard down so I could be this person that people love, which is this unfiltered Ray. Uh, and then I also, was struggling with my body issues and everything like that. So yeah, it didn't stick until I was 30. I did
Yeah.
a trip to Toronto for a coronation, and I was already juggling with the idea of quitting drinking, but for some reason we had drinks right before we got on the plane, and I should have known right then and there that that trip was going to go downhill, and it did.
Oh
It
God.
was a really hard trip for me. I was drunk the entire time, and sketchy and coked out, because I had run into people that we were partying with in
Yeah.
Vancouver. Like some of
Yeah.
our party girls were living in Toronto at the time, so of course Ray's
Mm-hmm.
here. Ray's a partier, so. And then like the last night that really sucked. So it was Saturday night. I just did my gig, and I'm okay. I finished my paid work for the evening. Let's have a drink. And so then I would drink, and then I missed my other bar show because I was too fucking high.
Oh
And I
shit.
I bailed on a lot of people that came down to Woody's to come see me
Oh my
because I was
God.
too sketchy and too drunk. So I woke up to a lot of angry messages, and they were right. They were right to be pissed off with me. Um, Me and the drag queen that was running the shows at the time only recently reconnected through my sobriety. So like, yeah, that one, and
Yeah.
then
That's
that's
a
what I
big
quit.
one.
So
That's a big
October
one.
13th is
Yeah.
my anniversary. Yeah,
Congratulations. So how many years has it
thank you.
been?
Almost 7 years now.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it'll
Holy
be
shit. That's
seven.
so impressive.
Yeah, 7 years this year. So
Yeah.
it's it's really given me a lot to reflect on, and it's really slowed me down. Like, I'm a lot calmer these days to be sober, but clear headed, and also like true to myself. So if I don't want to do something, or if I'm feeling like I'm being mistreated, I will become, as some people call it, difficult. But it's not difficult. It's me setting my boundaries so I can do the best job away from that environment. There was times when I was doing shows over Pride that I would always ask for my own private dressing room, and it was Ray's such a diva because she's a legend. I'm like, well, I don't view myself as a legend. Thank you. Those are your words,
Yeah.
not me. But I discovered if I'm in a room full of people and there's one drug use, or there's just casual drinking, and there is, and that's great, I shut down. I can't focus on my drag.
Interesting.
And then I get really subconscious, and then I get into my head, and the spiral begins. And I tend to always break it right before I hit the stage, but all my energy's gone. I'm drained emotionally. So I'll go out there and I'll give you a performance, but I'm literally dead on the inside, because it's just like, yeah.
It's really hard to go back into that environment sober, because for me, I felt oh my God, I didn't know who I was without
Yeah.
the drinking and the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so than the state of mind, I had just relied on them as a gimmick for so long. Like
Yeah.
it was just my thing.
Yep.
And I had to learn how to, like, it's crazy to think I'd been friends with people for years and years and years, and then I got sober and was like, I don't know how to talk to you, because the
Yeah,
relationship was based on being fucked up, right?
yeah,
And so when I moved away from that, I was, I mean, a hermit for a long time. I still am now a homebody. That
yep,
was another
same.
thing that surprised me. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm actually an introvert. I like being at home. I would rather not be
same.
around people. This was
Yeah,
something new to me, because I was like, no, I'm an extrovert. No, honey, you like to get fucked up. Big
yeah.
difference.
You like to
Yeah.
party, and same,
Yeah.
the exact same boat with me. And it was rediscovering, like I had to relearn 7 years ago what I wanted to be as a drag queen. So I tried that avenue. I really went with drag hard after getting sober, because I'm like, I have a new person. I have a new energy. I have a new mindset. I'm gonna give it my all. And that was the beginning of the rise of like Canada's Drag Race. So I was really excited for that, because I'm like, that's new me. I'm sober. But it's it was like, yeah, these people that they just wanted me to be that messy girl, and
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to you, because I'm like, well, that was our basis of our friendship. We would drink, and then we would just kind of start chatting as you were drinking. So there's always this motion happening. Um,
Yeah. It changes so many things.
it changes a lot of things, and I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm an introvert. I like the weird thing is COVID has, for me personally, has not been a blessing, but it's given me a chance to kind of like really be able to look at myself as a human being and being like, okay, well, now that this is all taken away from me, what do I have? Well, I have this, and I have this, and I have this, and I have all these great things. And I'm like, but no, but really, like, who am I as a person? Like, how do I want to portray myself as a human going forward from this moment? And then someone had asked me last year in March, like, oh, tell me about your drag. Who are you as a drag queen? Like, what makes you happy as a drag queen? And I'm like, I couldn't answer it. And
Wow.
I'm still struggling with that question, because it's like, well, who am I as a drag queen? Well, it's not even who am I as a drag queen. It's now, who am I as a human? Like,
It's a big question.
it's a big
Yeah.
question. I mean, like, I've struggled with myself for so many years, but now thanks to COVID, I have this given time to stay home and be paid for it, because thank God we had CERB, or
Yep.
none of us would
Totally.
be sitting
Yeah.
here in our homes.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Um, but I was given a chance to be like, okay, well, the universe has now shut everything down, so you have nothing else to do but reflect. And I think a lot of people have made a lot of personal growth through COVID, through a lot of pain and a lot of
Yeah.
suffering and
Discomfort.
a lot of discomfort and a lot of
Yeah.
mental stress too. Because I mean, when you're so suddenly no longer in a work mode of productivity, produce, you're just like,
What's
what am
it
I going to
for?
do?
I know.
What's it
Like
for? Yeah.
I have gotten so many, like I have talked on the phone more during COVID than I have in years, because I'm reconnecting with people that
Mhm.
I've like our dialogue has been through social media or texting. But now that we have all this time, a lot of people, like you said, are struggling, and they're reaching out like never before. Like I've had so
Yeah.
many amazing 2 hour long conversations with people who I love so much, but I haven't been able to, or not that I haven't been able to, I haven't, neither of us have set aside the time to
Yeah.
connect in that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been really hard, but I am feeling even more connected to the people around me, because you're right, when everything stops, you have nothing to do but reflect on the world,
But
on your
reflect.
life, on your job, on your friends.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable, and it's been challenging, but I do agree with you that there is some value in that. If you're able
Yeah.
to take a lesson from it, and move on,
Yeah.
then
Well,
it's
I
been
mean,
great.
it kind of comes down to like what you want out of your year. If this isn't the year for you to self-focus because you're still driving, keep driving. But like,
Yes.
the overall takeaway from this is like, you have to be kind to yourself first off. You have to forgive yourself for things that you might just be psychoanalyzing and being like, oh, this person hates me because of this. Well, that's not true. You're just no longer a priority to that person. They don't hate you. I
Mm,
would never want to see someone starve or go through a hardship, but I'm not going to reach out to you because you're not a priority to me. I'm sorry. It's
yeah.
not a cold hard truth. It's just like, you're doing you. I'm gonna take this time out to do myself. So I mean, I don't really talk to a lot of queens and performers. I mean, I have a few that I maintain a regular communication line with, but to be honest, I haven't really had anyone reach out to me and be like, hey, how are you? unless
Wow.
unless someone has like a makeup question, or a question about how to do something on a technical level, I'll hear from them. And that's fine. I love helping. So I am more than happy to give myself and share the knowledge that I have in my crazy kooky head with you, because you're going to do something with it, you know. And I know for a couple of years, a lot of people took that as Raye is really cruel about makeup and she's very analytical about makeup. And it's not so much that I was cruel about it. It's, I know you can do better, so I'm going to push you to be better. I'm gonna be the evil queen here. That's fine. I'll take it. But look at you where you are now in your makeup skills.
Totally.
Versus from when I met you and I was that two-faced cunt that made a comment.
Yeah.
Wow, look at you now.
Yeah, you're better.
You're better.
It's similar. There's other people in our communities who have similar personality types that are constantly offering opportunity for how you can be better. And it's sometimes unsolicited advice, but ultimately, if you take it, you can improve. And it goes back, like I'm thinking how people message you only when they want makeup tips. And you forget that, again, the other side to drag is that there is a human being, and it's not just somebody to book you or help you or do a live with you. There is a human being behind it. And again, going back to mental health, how do we really support, how can drag performers and the queer community support each other in that way? And it's an interesting point. I think you have a unique perspective because you were in the club, you were really, really in it, and now you've been sober for 7 years, and you have a career, and you're currently figuring out how you fit into it all. And that is not the popular dialogue online. The popular dialogue is, let's get to 10K, let's audition for Drag Race. Thank you so much to all my fans. And you know, people like you and I are like, that moment will pass. It's not gonna last forever.
This is not forever. I mean, like in the beginning of COVID, I saw some performers splurging on some things, and I'm like, this is like one of the biggest things I learned with drag over the years is to always set aside money from what you make on a show. You know, granted, it may not be a lot, but that can add up after your 5th show. You know, another queen does that as well, and they're constantly setting aside money. But then you're not struggling. So when it does, like the rainy day happen, which is COVID, you're not wanting to put out, you know, $1,000 for a wig. Well, okay, well, that's a beautiful wig, and I'm so happy that you spent that money on it. What the fuck are you gonna do with it? Like you spent $1,000 on something for your digital drag, great, I mean, amazing. But how are you going to recuperate that loss? People don't view drag as a business, and it is a business. It's
honey, I mean, the financial I don't know, responsibility of being a creative person is something that is ongoing, and not everybody has it naturally. I want to shift now to talk about spirituality, because when I talked to you, when I reached out to you initially, you were like, yeah, I have a lot to say about this. And I was so happy because the way that we know each other through nightlife was the original conduit for me for spirituality. It made me, it was sort of like the glimmer of light that made me go in that direction. And when I have the opportunity to talk to people like you, I want to know, like, when you were in nightlife, were you having that experience too? Did you find, now looking back, maybe that was a conduit for you to ultimately pursue spirituality?
Spirituality for me, it's a good topic, but it's something that a lot of people don't share the same views as I do. So to give a bit of background story before I go into this, like, I am someone that doesn't associate with a mainstream religion. I am not Christian. I'm not Muslim or Jewish. I am someone that doesn't believe in organized religion because I believe it's tainted. You know, there's things that have been taken away from the original teachings that are just not practiced anymore, but yet people will weaponize it and use it as a weapon. So it's for me, it's created like this distrust of organized religion. So when I was trying to like refine myself as a person and, like, you know, have an understanding, I fell into paganism and Lilith, which is the daughters of Lilith. It's the teachings of Lilith, who was the first woman to leave Eden before Eve, you know. So it's,
I have never heard of Lilith.
Yeah, Lilith is the first woman who's been written out of the Bible in different cases, but she's still in the original text, which is why I'm like, why? Oh my God, why take away history, right? But I mean, the reason I fell to Lilith and paganism is their tenets are a bit more like self-preservation, self like love, but also like kindness to people. And I mean, like all religions teach kindness and love. It's all just about being a good human. So like I don't practice any of those religions. I don't attend meetings and stuff like that. But if I was to align myself with something, to give yourself to a higher power, I guess, if you would be those two religions, because they're not so much a physical deity that they're creating.
Yeah.
It's different energies. There's like the O King, which is nature and wilderness, and it's Lilith, who is a powerful woman who chose not to obey, a man's orders and be told what to do. I'm someone that's always going to embrace, like, you can give me your ideas if I'm in charge of this project, but at the end of the day, this project is mine, and I'm going to create.
Bitch.
Like, so it's like it's those are things. But when you go through hell, and I use hell as like there's about 3 months when you're getting sober that gets really dark, because you're detoxifying, you're ridding your body of a lot of things that are sitting up there mentally, but also like on a chemical level. So you're a little touch and go.
Totally.
So after my second suicide attempt, I had not a realization of like there's more to live. There was just, I don't want to lose what I've created, because
Wow.
I just, I don't want to, at the time I didn't want to live anymore, but it took me realizing that like there's more to life than just this thing that's been my whole life, which was drag. I've always been a makeup artist, but drag was like the main thing for so many years, and it was the only thing I would do.
Yeah.
So when I was losing that, I didn't want to exist anymore. I didn't want to have my light shine in the world anymore, because I didn't think it was worth it, and I didn't think I was worthy of having that light. So after pulling myself out of the bathtub for the second time, I just stared at the mirror, and I just like, I don't want to submit to a higher power. It sounds really weird, and it's a debate that I can have endlessly with people, because some people think that you need to submit yourself to something higher to achieve sobriety. But if you just talk with people and communicate how you're feeling about things, you're not giving yourself to something else. You're letting yourself have your own power. Like, you're in control of your own power. So spirituality for me is trust in the power of myself. Like, no, trust your gut, know who you are, but be true to yourself. Like, if you don't feel comfortable with something, say no. So it's
Yeah, I totally get that. And you mentioned something before about your like nightlife dimming your inner light. And then you just mentioned now when you moved away from drag, it was how does your relationship with that light change? And I love the visual of the light, because to me that's how it felt too. Like when I first went into nightlife, there was a light shining from the inside out, but then nightlife dimmed that, and now I'm learning how to let that out again. And to me, my spirituality is, how can I cultivate that without relying on anybody else? Like, it's okay to have people that you lean on in a support system,
absolutely.
But I mean, there's a difference between, if you don't give me attention, I feel like I'm nothing, and hey, I'm having some issues, can you help me? I mean, those are two very different things. And spirituality, you're right, is different for everybody. And I think most queer folks pull away from a religion for lots of reasons. And it's important that people take the time to figure out what works for them, which it sounds like you've been exploring, and that's amazing.
Well, you have to find what works for you, because I mean, one of the reasons I didn't like my AA meeting was because of the heavy topic of God. And it's not that I'm like opposed and like an antichrist person, but it's just like, I look at this topic that people speak of God, and a lot of religions, it's all kind of the same God, but no one seems to acknowledge that fact. But it's because it's been so weaponized, and it's such a place of like, for queer people especially, it's such a place of like hatred. Like, you say this deity loves you and stuff like that, but then you're screaming to be condemning me for who I am. So it's kind of like, what's
It's
the
a
message
trigger word.
here?
Yeah, when
It's a
people
trigger
go
word.
into I had this similar experience when I was exploring 12-step meetings. It is it's a spiritual solution to, that's what they're offering. That's what the program is. And a lot of people hear the word God, and it's too much for them to, it doesn't make them feel like it's a safe place. It makes them feel like it's a church, and church is not a safe place for queer people historically.
Especially, and I mean, like, I know that through the 12-step, it doesn't have to be God. It can be like anything, but it's all about surrendering yourself to a higher power, and that works great for some people, and all the power to them. But you know, there's some people in this world that are just so unique humans that doesn't fit for us. That, you know, and it may not be a conventional religion or any religion whatsoever. It can just be an understanding of how you want to leave this world, or how you want to explore this world. I mean, like, when I got sober and really kind of woke up to the fact of what I want in life, I've really started to be like, okay, well, let's view everything differently. Let's look at this differently. And so far, the only things that have always been a given nourishment is like life, you know, like plants and animals, and like things that are like literally living and breathing objects, you know. So if you were to surrender yourself to even that, that's great. But then you kind of, there's a small bit, I feel like there's a small bit of yourself that's at risk of being lost if you surrender yourself to something.
I
So
hear
it
that.
sounds weird, but
no, it doesn't sound weird. I had that conversation when I first was getting sober about surrender. Like, I didn't understand why I had to give up my power to be sober, and it didn't make sense to me. I like, the way that I look at surrender now is, a lot of my anxiety and my issues came from feeling like I couldn't control the world around me, and it caused me stress. I couldn't make myself famous. I couldn't make myself whatever, X, Y, and Z. And so now, like, the way that I incorporate surrender in a way that works for me is, if I can't control something, thank God it is off my shoulders, and I'm just gonna move on. And you know, meditation helps me with that, and exercise helps, like getting my body moving. But yeah, there is something specific about when you say you need to hand your life over to God, and then everything will be better. It's a really challenging concept to wrap your mind around, because you're right. You feel like, why do I have to give myself up? And you know, 12 steps specifically is very strict about that. So how do you then, when you're experiencing without the surrender and you know, handing your life over to a higher power, how do you handle situations that are beyond your control and are overwhelming you?
I ground myself. I excuse myself from the situation, and I'm very honest with my, like, with what I need at work. So like, say I'm overwhelmed at work, I'll tell my coworker, I'm like, I need to step away for 2 minutes just to kind of reground myself, and I'll be right back. And I'm not giving you the option of anything. This is what I'm telling you that I need to do for myself right now. It won't take me long, but just give me 2 seconds. And then you just step away, and you have those, like, even if it's like you walk away for 30 seconds, it's enough to be like, okay, the world is slowing down. What is happening? You can ground yourself. So like, finding the power within yourself, I guess, is kind of what.
Exactly.
It's because you control everything in your world. Like, everything that you do is a result of your action. So like, taking that philosophy and being like, you know what? No, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to step out, look at it from a distance for a minute, and be like, okay, what is my main goal? What do I need to achieve? Look at the task at hand first, and then be like, forgive myself for getting overwhelmed, because it's normal. You can't beat yourself up for getting overwhelmed. But then also to just be like, okay, I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to walk back in and be like, hi, I'm so sorry. This is or not even, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to walk up. Thank you for that. I'll acknowledge that I needed a moment. Thank you for giving me that moment. And now let's carry on with the discussion at hand. So-and-so needs this, and so-and-so needs that. So it's controlling your environment. And I mean, a lot of people don't have that ability to control their environments. So they do become overwhelmed and stressed out, but it's
I've heard that it's and I experienced that where it's if you can find a way to self-regulate and ground yourself in a moment and
Yeah,
be like, okay, what thoughts are helping me and what thoughts are hurting me, and
yeah,
how do I go into the better
yeah.
direction?
But even like sometimes you can lose yourself in those moments. Like you can lose you're consumed by the energies around you and you spiral. That's okay. People spiral, but
Yeah.
like it's you have to remember to forgive yourself for spiraling, because how else are you supposed to handle this? This is all this intensity is coming at you. You can't help but spiral because it's overwhelming. So
Yes.
it's again coming down to you and using the words that you need to communicate to help control your environment. So it's just it's taking control basically,
Yeah, and getting to know yourself and having that
yeah.
trust in your instincts.
Which
Okay.
isn't easy.
No, it's
So
not. And it's trial and
yeah.
error, basically. You try
Mhm.
things, it doesn't work. You try something else, it works. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what I've done. And
yeah.
you just eventually get to a place where you have a toolbox and you're like, how am I going to help
And that's
myself?
why I'm always like, just be kind to yourself, like, and eventually you'll develop the tools. And I mean, if you can afford it, I suggest everyone go to therapy.
Yes,
Therapy is just
absolutely.
great because it's then you're talking to someone that has the tools to help you. And if you can't afford that, then talk to friends. Open
Yeah.
up to these people that are close to you. And if they don't gauge you a certain way, then you know that that person might not be in your life forever, and come to terms with that. Be like,
Yeah.
if you're not willing to listen to me as I'm sitting here bleeding out,
Yeah.
then then you then I'm sorry, I'm not going to give myself to you anymore.
Yeah.
I'll still
It's
be your
great
friend,
advice.
but I'm not going to give me to you anymore. And that's, so like, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
like that. You have to open up and let people help you. Show
yes,
people what you need.
yeah,
Okay, so to wrap things up, what would you say to somebody who's just starting their drag career? Maybe they're curious about it, and maybe they know you from online, and they're listening
yeah,
to the conversation, and they're like, I want to be a drag star. I want to be an influencer, or I want to be on Drag
yeah,
Race, or they're just curious about drag.
yeah.
What advice would you give them if they're just starting out?
Well, it's basically to make sure that you keep yourself as the primary focus. Like it's about you. It's not about what's happening on the screen behind, like below you, or what so and so is doing with their drag. It doesn't matter what someone else is doing to the drag. It's again coming down to what you want to portray and what you want to show as your art piece in a form. But also, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, there's a lot of queens that get into this industry, and for the first 2 years, there's the booger phase, which is like you're just like, oh, gross, and then you begin to you find yourself more and more, and then that's usually the phase where people are like, well, I want more, I deserve more out of this, I deserve this pay because I do this. Well, no, certain drag queens deserve that pay because they've been doing it for that long and they can bring a crowd in. That again, the business aspect. So just be kind to yourself. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's okay, because why would you want to rush a beautiful thing like drag? Drag is so much fun and so much creativity. Just enjoy the moment. If you're not feeling happy with it, step away from it. Take a break. You don't owe anything to anyone about being on demand. Like, I see social media people always apologize for stepping away from the computer. Like, well, no,
Oh
but
my God.
no,
Fuck
no one
that.
cares, and B,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, most of us watch your videos like this.
No one
It's
cares. I'm
No
so
one
sorry. I've been gone
cares.
for 30 seconds.
I've been gone for a day. I'm so sorry, everyone. Ooh, they didn't even notice you were gone.
Oh my God.
They only
As soon
noticed
as
you
we're
left because you
done,
said
yeah,
it.
I want to go back and like wait for people to do that. That's so funny. I'm
Yeah,
so glad we got a chance to talk because you do
me
have
too.
such a unique perspective. And I hope you keep sharing your journey because it's definitely going to be exciting for you in the next little while, and how you
Yeah,
focus more on what it is you want to say as an artist
yeah,
and sharing it in the way that you want to
yeah,
is important, and we need that voice and we need that story. So thank you for sharing it with me, Hanny.
yeah. And I'm so happy you got to listen. And like, it's fun to self-reflect. It lets you grow as a person, and it also just makes you feel good. Like, it feels like, okay,
Totally.
I did all these crazy ass fucking things, but I'm still who I am, and I'm still a happy, like, loving person. So it's just like, oh, you're not this evil queen that you portray yourself to be.
Oh,
You're
hell no,
actually very
bitch.
kind and sweet. But like,
And actually, you know what? That reminds me, you said something to me. I'm so glad I remembered this. I was having a really bad time, like
Yeah.
years and years and years ago.
I remember.
And
Yeah.
I made a status about something, I can't even remember, but I basically was like, all I have to offer is a bad reputation and I don't know, a big ego. And you're
Yeah.
like, no, you're a really beautiful person, Peter. Like you have a great
Yeah.
spirit. And even though you're a hot mess, it's obvious that you have something inside of you that's good.
Yeah.
And we were standing in the Odyssey, and it was so, it meant so much to me that you validated me in that way, because so many people dismissed me and were like, he's a
Yeah.
mess. And
Oh, I hear you.
that stays with me, and it really stands out. So thank you. And I'm glad I remembered that so I could bring it up right now.
Yeah, I do remember that evening at the Odyssey, because you were having a rough night. You were going through it. And I mean, like, I've had a few of those moments with certain people in our industry, and you know, some of them, I hope they take it and they know where it was coming from. You know, it's never been malicious. I've never been malicious with someone. It's just, I know you can do better. And
Yeah.
if it gives you that little gentle shove to be like, no, go push yourself. And yeah. And now look at you.
Hello.
Right? Hello world.
Yeah, hello. But honestly, thanks so much. And I hope we talk more, and I'll let you know when the show's gonna be out. So
yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Take a listen, and we'll talk really soon.
Okay, babe. Okay.
Okay, bye, honey. Talk
Bye,
soon.
honey.